Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome back to the Revo Performance Centre in Daventry. It is always great to be invited here because that always means that there's a cool car to drive and share with you lot. And believe me, we've got something very, very special today. It's parked in the workshop, just the other side of that glass door. But if you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button because it really does help the channel. And if you want to be notified of new videos dropping, ring that notification bell. But I think today is a case of sitting down, strapping yourself in and holding on tight. Because I think that car's going to be quite quick. So last time I was here at the Revo Performance Centre, we were talking all things Audi S4. This is about fast Fords. Now I still remember the very first time I drove a Mk4 Focus RS. It was early days of Petrol Ped and I just loved the car. I thought it was fantastic. And since then I've driven a couple of quite highly tuned RSs and they always impress. However, the first time I drove the Mk4 Focus ST, I actually think that is a better car. So when you take a Focus ST and you give it a stage 2 tune, amazing things are going to happen apparently. So I was invited up here to sample the guys from Revo's latest fast Ford creation. This Focus ST is running a stage 2 tune and a couple of other little things, and I thought it'd be fascinating to talk about the work that's taken place under the bonnet. There's a few aesthetic changes as well. And then I've got the keys, so then we can take you for a spin up the road. So let's wander around the front, and I want to talk to you about the work that's taken place underneath the hood because it's pretty impressive, and the numbers are pretty impressive as well. A little bit intimidating if I'm honest, but very impressive. So yes, if you haven't seen my Revo S4 video, because the car's parked just there, I'll put a card above, make sure you go and check it out. But while I'm actually here, we're going to be doing something with this S4 and an RS4, so you need to stay tuned to the channel for that one. But yes, this is a Mk4 Focus ST. Before we go underneath the bonnet, a few things on the outside in terms of styling and performance changes. It's pretty stock, to be honest. It does have, however, the lightweight Revo wheels and 6-pot caliper and brake upgrade, which very similar to the S4 that we had on the channel earlier on, and that really does set the car off nicely and it makes it stop as well. But all the magic happens under the bonnet. So let me pop the bonnet, and I've also got a few bits of hardware to show you. Okay, so you have a Mk4 Focus ST and you want to know about tuning options. Well, option number 1 would be a stage 1, which is just software changes in the ECU to increase power and torque. Now you could do that with Revo, but if you want more power and more torque than just the basic software, you then need to start changing hardware and go to a stage 2. And for me, this is where I find it fascinating coming here, understanding how the team here developed the hardware that they use to make cars go faster. You pop the bonnet on this car with a stage 2, and the most noticeable thing to start with are the changes that have been made to breathing, because we have a different air filter. This has an open cone filter and then bigger pipes going over the top of the engine down into the turbocharger over there. Now you could do this open cone arrangement, or if you wanted a more OEM look, they do a closed box that has the OEM air box with a panel filter in it. And in some markets you have to have that by law anyway. For me, the open cone just looks much, much cooler. Probably got a little bit better breathing and sounds a little bit better as well. But the really interesting stuff is what happens after that. So the difference between Mk3 and Mk4 Focus, in the Mk3, the pipes that came out of the turbo and then into the intercooler went down the back of the engine, underneath the bottom of the engine, and then into the intercooler. And there was an amount of cooling there from just the airflow underneath the car. There was some cooling fins on the pipes and those types of things. But in a Mk4, that pipe actually comes alongside the engine underneath all the coolant hoses. And what that means is the air actually warms up as it comes past the engine before it goes into the intercooler. The other thing about the intercooler is it sits behind this clamshell. It's it's quite difficult to access. Now, as luck would have it, I actually have the intercooler, the original intercooler here, so that kind of sits under there. But the analysis that's been done is all to do with the airflow in and out of this intercooler and the restrictions that take place on the inlet and the outlet and the size of the piping. So if I were to show you this standard intercooler that's come off of this car and show you the replacement Revo intercooler that goes on it, first things first, you can see the difference in the size of pipe, but also just the way in which the air is managed in and out of this just increases airflow, increases the cooling so that you get better charge temperatures. And what that means is that the guys that develop the ECU software have more headroom to push the numbers, to push the performance envelope of the car. And that means some really, really big numbers. So the standard ST produces 280 PS and 410 Newton meters of torque. This stage 2 on a dyno, 410 PS and 590 Newton meters of torque. Now that is a big increase, and that's just come from really good design work, looking at how the engine breathes and how we get cooler charge temperatures and those types of things. And that's what I love about Revo. They don't just stick a map on and make it go as quick as possible. They look at how the engine's performing, and that takes months and months of research and development, and then they create their own bespoke products. In terms of other things on this car, there's no sport cat or any downpipe changes. In fact, it retains exactly the stock downpipe and GPF filter. It does have a Milltek exhaust, but that's from GPF back, so a little bit like the one I've got on my Porsche Boxster. So that's not going to really change the performance any, but it does change the aesthetics at the rear of the car, and also it sounds a lot better as well. But I think what we need to do is experience this car out and about on the road. That uplift in numbers, both in terms of torque and power, are going to make a dramatic difference to this car. As I said, a standard ST is a phenomenal thing to drive. This is a manual 6-speed box. So let's close this bonnet, stick some cameras in it, and go up the road and have a see what it's like with all of this extra power. Okay, here we go. I'm literally going to take you on my journey from the moment I push the start button, off I go. Let's just try and experience this ST. So while we're waiting for the car to warm up and so on, let's just talk a little bit about the ST as a driving proposition. As I said, a normal Mk4 Focus ST is a brilliant thing to drive. They've got a really nice feel to them. Really nice gearbox. They've got a number of different drive modes, like most cars would have, you know, sport and track and those types of things. But I just found it a really nice balance of power and performance. So it will be interesting to see what this car's like with such an uplift in power and such an uplift in performance. So what I will do is I'm going to put it into sport mode. I've got rev matching in sport mode. I've also got track, we'll try that in a little while. So a few things while we're waiting for the car to warm up. Just in terms of the way the ECU tune's been done, I found it really nice and some really nice tweaks. They've changed the soft limiter, but they've also changed the limit so you can get 62 miles an hour in second gear, so that will improve any 0 to 60 time that you want to aspire to. We were talking about the where the intercooler is at the front. Now if you look really closely at the front of one of these, there are active openings, and what some tuners will do just to try and get the air into the intercooler to get those temps down is that they'll just either run those open all the time, and Revo don't need to do that. So they've actually managed to maintain that active venting at the front, so that when the car's warming up like it is now, you can keep them closed, you can help with engine warm-up. But then when you want to, if you like, increase the airflow through that intercooler, you can open the flaps and away you go. I just want to wait for the engine to really warm up before I start pushing on, that's for sure. What I will say is it's got like a menacing growl to it. It's got quite a sharp throttle. I can feel the power already. And oh, hello. Oh, can you hear that chirp? Oh dear, this is going to be very dangerous. Rev matching on the way down, little crack and pop from the Milltek, so they have engineered in a few little cracks and pops. Here we go. Oh my god. So when you get above about 4,000 RPM, things get really interesting. You've got some pops and bangs out the back, but not ridiculous AK-47 ones like I've got in my Mini, just enough. But it's the turbo, this is the intake noise. Oh dear me. Now I've got to say that intake noise and turbo flutter is very, very addictive. Here we go. Oh yeah. Okay, so we're only in sport mode at the moment. So immediate impressions in sport mode is you got underneath 4,000 RPM. It's very drivable and manageable. It's not silly at all. When it hits about 4,000 RPM, you can just feel things spool up and feel things getting faster. And then when you change up, it's got this fantastic noise. Then on overrun, you've got some pops and bangs out the back, but it's not too much. It's just enough to kind of get you in the mood to make you feel like the car's doing something really cool for you. Next thing to talk about is just we've increased the power, both power and torque, a lot in this car. But this car doesn't have a limited slip diff. It's just got the standard offering, and I think for me, and it's a lovely dry day today, but when you are, it does deal with it pretty well. You could probably feel just a little bit of loss of traction on the inside wheel there. I think a limited slip diff would just be the ultimate addition to this car. And I would imagine if you're on track and you're really pushing on, or if the road surface is damp or wet, then I can imagine you're going to have a lot of fun trying to get this 410 horsepower on the road without a diff. This is addictive. I want to take this car home already. So how much does it cost? Well, if you want the open cone intake like we've got on here, it's actually not that bad. It's 1,165 quid plus VAT for the open cone intake. I don't have the price for the OEM enclosed air box, but I'll put a link in the description below. If you want to find out more, head over to Revo's website. And if you've already got the stage 1 and want to then increase to stage 2, it's 765 quid plus VAT. So that's going to get you the performance. But what I really like about this car is I'm not so sure I would want to put this much performance into the car without changing the stopping. And the Alcons on here, let me just kind of come into a really nice right-hander up here. We'll come in and we'll have a bit of a big braking effort. There's a car coming up anyway. But it's just got a really nice feel on the brake. Big discs, big 6-pot calipers. And I'd suggest that if you're going to put this much power into a car, that wastegate chirp is wicked, then you're going to want to have, you're going to have to stop the car. You want the big anchors. Now, if you want the big anchors, they're 2,380 quid. So that's a lot of money, but big anchors, 1,100 quid for the performance upgrade. Well worth doing. And then the final thing this car has, which I just think sets it off a treat, are the wheels and tyres. And the wheel and tyre package, they're the lightweight Revo wheels, and they really do look the business. Now the wheels are 289 quid a piece, plus whatever tyres you want. This has got, for me, probably the best road tyre you can get, Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, and you really can feel that. But it sets the car off beautifully. The one thing that came with the car when Revo bought it, it's got quite a nice side skirt and rear valance on the back, and that's a styling kit that's not standard to Ford, but it does look really cool. And coupled with the carbon tip Milltek exhaust system, it just makes this car look absolutely brilliant. But it is a real sleeper. Here we go. And that's what I like about it. It's a sleeper. You could look at this car, and if you didn't change the wheels, you just really wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. And you know, there's an argument for me, the Mk4 Focus RS, magnificent a car as it was quite boy racery. Come on, let's agree. You know, it had a big wing on the back, and it had 2 big exhausts and a big diffuser, and it had a lot of presence, but I'm pretty sure that would have put some people off who wanted something a little bit more subtle. This, well, you could have one of these, and I think the standard ST is a pretty subtle looking thing. If you know what you're looking at, you can see an ST and you know that it's got something special. But you could look at this, and apart from the Revo badge on the back, you'd have no idea this was running 400 horsepower. And I'm pretty sure, put side by side, if you had this going down a B road versus a Mk4 Focus RS going down a B road, I reckon this is going to win hands down. It's a brilliant thing. Thing I want to do is just try this out in track mode. Turns the traction control off. The one thing I haven't mentioned on this car is suspension. There have been no modifications to the suspension at all. It's just running the stock springs and dampers of the ST, and to be honest, actually, even on this quite uneven road surface, it deals with it really well. So if you wanted to ultimately track focus your car and go down the handling route, you could do the suspension as well. But honestly, so let's just back off a little bit, slow down, and just do a bit of an acceleration pull in track mode just to see what it's like. I'm going to go down into second. Okay, so in track, it's just hysterical, this car. In track mode, is you got the backed off the traction control, there's a little bit more torque steer. You can feel it a little bit more grab for grip coming out of the bends. But Jesus, this car's quick, like really quick. chill pill, calm down a little bit, and head back to Revo and give you my final impressions of this car. What a thing. I'm going to put it back in normal sport mode, I think. What a thing. The performance that's been eked out of this car is just sensational. I'm a big believer. For me, I think the ultimate brake horsepower in a car is somewhere sort of 300 to 400 horsepower. And if you go above 300 horsepower, I think you really need to be careful that the chassis can deal with that increase in power. And the base ST is such a good car anyway that it really can. And I don't drive this car and think, oh, it's got too much power. It's been over-tuned. I don't feel that at all. Yes, it's got some torque steer. Yes, limited slip diff would be an amazing improvement on the car. But as it is, it's just a sensational thing. And the noise and the theatre of the car is fantastic. But at its heart is a car, or if you like, a set of modifications on the car that have been engineered, that have been truly researched and developed. The work that's gone in just to the intercooler, just to cooling down that airflow and the kind of temperatures around the turbo. It's a phenomenal thing. That gives the headroom for the ECU tuning guys to really push the numbers, push the boundaries. And that's why Revo can put more horsepower in a stage 2 out than anybody else. And it's not just the tune, it's the other things. It's that extra headroom that they've built in. But the final thing to say is the numbers aren't everything about this car. They're impressive. 590 Newton meters, 410 PS. That's impressive in any car, let alone a front wheel drive Ford Focus. But it's the way it gets delivered. It's very usable under normal driving conditions. It doesn't feel like a heavily modified car. It's not sharp and bitey and nasty. It's just nice and smooth and relaxed. It kind of, you don't feel like it's going to try and kill you every time. It's just stunning thing. Absolutely stunning thing. But huge thanks to Revo. I'll put all the details in the description below. Honestly, if you've got a Ford and you want to make it go quicker, or you've got, they do so much stuff with VAG product with, we've seen the S4, they do stuff around Cooper and Golfs and so on, then really top guys to talk to. They really know their stuff. But I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know what you think of this incredible car. Put it in the comments below. But for now, if you enjoyed that, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film, guys. You take care. Drive safe.